Welcome to another episode of Our Connection, the podcast where we connect with individuals, where we connect individuals with similar rare conditions, educate medical professionals, and strive to find treatments for treatments and clinical trials for the 95% of rare conditions that lack FDA-approved options. I'm your host, Joanna, and today we have a special guest joining us today. And once again, before we dive in, I'd like to remind our listeners that that this podcast is for informational purposes only. Please consult a medical professional before following any of the advice that may be discussed in this episode. Also, for those listening on the audio only version, this is you may find some ads. I am finally monetized on the audio side. The other side, with I am not, and so that one won't have any ads yet, except for their own stuff. But today we're welcoming back Jessica, who has previously shared her journey with two conflicting conditions, diabetes and homocystinuria. In addition to managing these, Jessica's also lives with mast cell activation syndrome and growth hormone deficiency, adding further layers to the complexity of her life. In this episode, we'll focus on Jessica's experiences with MCAS, or mast cell activation syndrome, and growth hormone deficiency, exploring how she navigates the intricate balance of her conditions, her strategies, and managing symptoms, and her insights in advocating for better treatment options. Jessica's story is a testament to resilience and hope, and we're honored to have her back on air on Rare Connection. Stay tuned and for an inspiring and informative conversation that sheds light on the realities of living with mast cell activation syndrome and growth hormone deficiency. Let's get started. So, let's see. First of all, can you explain what these two conditions are?
So mast cell disease is a disorder where your body basically makes too much mast cells, and it causes your body to overproduce tryptase, which can cause your body to go in and out of anaphylaxis, which is a life-threatening allergic reaction. Growth hormone deficiency is a disorder in which is usually diagnosed as a child, but can be diagnosed as an adult. I was diagnosed as an adult. It affects the body's ability for the pituitary gland in your body that produces the growth hormone, which has a lot of effects on, like, being able to function and your memory, and even like the functions of all the other organ systems in your body.
And yes, yeah. How were you diagnosed with mast cell, and how were you diagnosed with them, and what symptoms led you to seek medical advice?
So I was diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency after a traumatic brain injury. My symptoms of migraines, dizziness, not just feeling right. Um, my neurologist thought something else is going on. So he sent me to an endocrinologist who did a stimulation test, which is basically this day of testing where they test your levels of growth hormone throughout the day and to see if your body is producing levels. And as an adult, your levels should still be producing some, but mine were completely not functioning at all. So that was the reason we ended up seeking medical help, was because of a neurologist that I see has very good knowledge about growth hormone deficiency. Um, I was now when in regards to my mast cell, I had allergies growing up, but they weren't severe. Um, in my 20s, I'm 33 now. Um, I started reacting to everything I was putting in my body. It would be different medications they tried me on because of my anxiety, or different foods I would put in my body, not knowing that I would react to them. And it was different. Like one day I could eat something, but that very next day I couldn't eat it. And it wasn't that I had an allergy to it per se, it was because the way my mast cell was. My mast cell levels were high that day. Um, so it was 10 years of going to different immunologists, and allergists, and um, hematologists and we finally got my diagnosis in 2019. And unfortunately, with this condition, there's no FDA cleared treatments. Um, so it's basically trying to manage symptoms. And even though I have the diagnosis of mast cell, there really hasn't been much that changed with in regards to it.
Hmm.
Besides, like the life expectancy tends to be lower for someone with mast cell.
Hmm. So who diagnosed it?
It was an immunologist out of Royal Oak, Michigan.
Hmm.
I and mast cell is one thing. Like you can test for it one day.
Hmm.
There's multiple different forms. So some
Yeah.
doctors only believe that it's genetics, and some doctors believe that there's an autoimmune component.
Hmm.
Um, I had genetic testing done, and my genetic scan panel came back completely normal for it. However, both of my grandmas have the same symptoms I do. So I really strongly don't feel that um, it that it is probably more genetics than autoimmune. Um, but it was testing levels of tryptase, testing levels of methamphetamine, metaphprines, and doing 24-hour urine collections and multiple blood work throughout like a 6 to 9 month period. But luckily, when by the time I got to my allergist, immunologist in Royal Oak, he was able to say, okay, I just need a tryptase now. And then he looked at my very first tryptase level, and there was more than a 20% difference in those levels. So he was able to give me my diagnosis.
Hmm.
Um,
So, question: what is what is that?
Tryptase?
What is tryptase?
Tryptase is it's not an amino acid. It's something that like is in your body, and it's stays more within the kidneys, not liver.
Mhm,
I really don't have a good understanding of tryptase, to tell you the truth. I
mhm,
just know that it's like a biomarker for mast cell and the way and when your body has reactions.
mhm. Uh, so, what are the most common symptoms of you experience with mast cell, and how do they impact your daily life?
So with mast cell, it impacts my life because I never know when I'm gonna have an allergic reaction. Just this morning, I was driving home from an appointment and I started reacting and reacting and not knowing what I was reacting to. And so it's always being aware of your body and having a treatment plan with your doctors, because, yes, there's no FDA cleared treatments, but there's ways to manage symptoms. So you take H1 blockers like Allegra, Claritin, those type of
Mhm.
allergy meds.
Yeah.
H2 blockers are your Tagment, your Cimetidine, your Zantac, or your Pepcid. Those things all help reduce how much tryptase is in your body, but then that doesn't cut it for me when
Mhm,
I'm in a reaction. I have to take oral steroids, I have to get steroid shots. Um, Managing my condition can be triggers. It can be triggered by something as just as simple as an environmental thing going on. Like we have high pollen right now, or something like an anesthetic they give you during a procedure can trigger a full on mast cell attack, which I've been in for 3 months. I've been in and out of a big flare requiring hospitalizations, needing IV steroids and multiple breathing treatments, trying to maintain a level of being able to breathe and function.
mhm.
Mhm.
How do you plan for something if you don't know what's going to happen?
How do you plan? So I wasn't planning before my diagnosis. I didn't know what was going on. All we knew is I carried an EpiPen because of allergies. And an EpiPen is your first line of treatment when you are in a sign of anaphylaxis. And mast cell symptoms can often mimic anaphylaxis or result in anaphylaxis. So that was the reason that it was so hard for me to get my diagnosis, is I was constantly having my throat swell shut. So we were requiring multiple IVs, IV steroids and IV things. So my levels were looking like they were normal, but they were normal because of IV steroids or EpiPens. So it's like once you get the diagnosis and knowing that you carry EpiPens, you carry Benadryl, and for a long time that's all I carried, EpiPens and Benadryl. It wasn't until my most recent ACL surgery, when my mast cell started spiraling even more, that doctors handed me a bottle of prednisone to keep on me at all times.
Mhm,
Because prednisone is an ugly drug. It's not something that you want to be on long term. And a doctor really you have to earn a doctor's trust with it, meaning um, you have to, a doctor's not going to just prescribe, Riley. sorry. A doctor's not just going to prescribe these meds um, without knowing that they can trust you not to take them, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that cover what you're trying to ask? I'm sorry.
Yeah. But so basically, yeah, I was trying to. You said that you don't know when something's going to happen, and so that was basically what I was trying to find out is how do
Yeah.
you plan for it if you don't know what's going to happen. Um, so what about with growth hormone deficiency? What symptoms are? Um,
So, symptoms with growth hormone deficiency, my major symptom was severe migraines, where we tried every single migraine medication in the book and it wasn't touching it. What I mean, I tried every single class of medication, multiple medicines in the class. I'm sorry. You're gonna, we're gonna hear that if I don't move it. I'm sorry.
okay.
Um, so so the growth hormone was basically when my level's low, I get severe. Sorry, 1 second. Uh, Wrong way. Severe migraines where I can't even get out of bed. And these migraines, they can last a couple days, they can last weeks, months. Um, and it's trying to, when you don't know. And one like common thing in kids is to look for is if they're not growing at the rate they should be, if they're below where they're supposed to be for their age. That's like one indicator that they might have growth hormone deficiency. And if my levels are low, I get really bad migraines. But if they're good, I can live like a migraine free life.
Mhm. So how do you control that?
How do I cope with it?
How do you control it? How do you keep your
So
level low?
I'm on a medication called it's a growth hormone. It's like so how diabetics give insulin to control their diabetes. I give growth hormone to control my growth hormone deficiency. So I give a sub Q shot every day. And doses vary for people. Um, I am on a pretty high dose because of my body's ability to absorb medication is a little bit harder than most people. But you always start off on a low dose because you don't know how much or how little it will affect someone.
Mm.
So like I cope by just making sure I'm on my meds and um or communicating with my doctors when I can't get my medication. I'm very fortunate right now. We've been through an insurance change and I'm very fortunate that I kind of stockpiled my medicine, meaning when I could fill it, I filled it.
Yeah.
Um, because I would be without that medication right now until we finish a state level appeal because my medicine's not on formulary. And with Mast Cell, it's very dangerous to change a person's medication because you risk a chance of anaphylaxis or you risk a chance of death.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably your most tricky one. See, um, so have you identified any specific triggers that exacerbate your mast cell?
So I can't be around like strong like odors, like perfume scents, like that will cause a mast cell flare where I might have an anaphylaxis episode or I might have a breathing episode where my breathing's not right. Um, Mast cell can affect you in multiple ways. It can affect you like an allergic reaction, flush, redness, hives, throat swelling. It can affect you like with GI distress. It can affect you in other multiple different ways. Like I said, there's multiple different forms.
Mhm. Um, and, see, how do you manage to avoid these triggers? No.
I manage to avoid my triggers by putting myself only in situations where I know that I'll be okay for the most part. Um, if I'm gonna stay at a hotel ahead of time, like I try to let them know ahead of time because like it is possible that you can like let them know and that they won't use perfume scents in that room for a week ahead of time. Or they might um they will just use more friendly cleaning products that um aren't gonna set someone like bleach would send me into a flare, whereas something like Clorox might not.
Mhm. So Clorox doesn't give you flares, but is Clorox.
Sometimes it just depends on the scent of Clorox.
Oh, I see.
Um,
I think Clorox is pretty dang strong.
so like the green Clorox bottle, I can't use, but like the lemon,
Oh,
a little like it just really depends how bad I'm already flared.
yeah,
But I mean, it's better for them to clean with that versus using bleach because that's not gonna linger a long time. Like it
yeah,
whereas bleach has an odor that lasts for a long time.
yeah. I was thinking Clorox as bleach, but
Mm. Yeah, I mean, our Riley, go outside. Our our favorite Clorox that I can handle is this one. This one, it's like a pink bag,
Mhm.
and it's called Clorox Sentiva Disinfecting, and it's the grapefruit one.
Hmm.
It has like the lightest odor. Um, when it, so I mean, my parents could clean all day with this stuff and it wouldn't bother me.
Mhm.
But if they were to clean with like the green Clorox, I would have to be gone for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. Uh,
So it's just really trying to, and then like fires, like campfires are another trigger for me. So even though like I love to camp,
mm,
come evening time, I'm in our trailer.
mhm.
I enjoy our days outside, our days on the boat with family, but I do not I do not participate in campfires, and we keep our windows shut at night.
Um, so let's see. What treatments or medications are you currently using to manage your mast cell? Have you found any particularly effective?
So in the United States, like I said, there's no FDA regulated treatment for mast cell. Um, However, if you have a diagnosis of chronic urticaria or another diagnosis of asthma, and your asthma levels are high enough, you can be placed on Xolair. And in Europe, it is actually Europe approved for mast cell. So I take that once a month. I am on 2 to 3 Allegros a day, the 24-hour ones. I take 2 to 3 tablets of that a day, every like 8 hours, and then I'm on um I take Benadryl, liquid children's Benadryl dye-free every 6 hours as needed. I take Singular twice a day to manage Mast Cell, and then, I take Zantac, which I get from Canada because it's not, um, FDA regulated here in the US.
Mhm.
But, I've tried I've tried Tagment, I've tried Cimetidine, which are 2 regulated treatments in the US. When I say treatments, they're available over the counter for you to purchase. Um, Whereas my body, um, did not work well with those 2.
Mhm.
So, we kinda bit the dust, and yes, there's side effects of Zantac, and that's why it was pulled off the market here, but I had been on it since I was 15 years old, um, with the exception of 2 years, where I was trying other medications, and until we figured out that we could order it through Canada. So my doctor writes a script, I upload it to the portal pharmacy department, or I email it to the pharmacy, and then I pay for it, and they mail it. The only problem with this is it can take 3 to 6 weeks to get here. So
Mm.
you have to be aware of when your medicine is running out and order about 8 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah. Um, and switching over to growth hormone, what kind of treatments or therapies are you using? Is it, you mentioned the shot. Are there any other therapies or treatments that you use for growth hormone?
No, there's no other shot treatments. So there are multiple different manufacturers make growth hormone. I'm on Norditropin. I have been on Norditropin since my diagnosis. Um, and then there's most of them are daily injections. However, Norva Nordis came out with a once a week injection. Um, but most insurance companies aren't, it's not on their formulary yet because it's only a year old.
Mhm. So now, like with homocystinuria and diabetes, there's a dietary component. Is there a dietary component to mast cell or growth hormone?
Well, I would say in a way, yes, with Mast Cell, because you you kind of know, you tend to after a while you can tell what you're going to react to and when you're going to react to it. Um, for example, let's mix this into like an HCU thing real quick.
Yeah.
So when I with HCU for years, I had the coolers, which is like a little metabolic formula that's in a juice box. For you guys that don't know. After being on it for 3 years, I started going into anaphylaxis anytime I started drinking it. Um, so I was quickly taken off of it. So you do once you have a reaction to something and you don't and it's not coming back as an allergen on allergy testing, then it is your job to advocate for yourself and know that even though they're saying it's not an allergen, it's something to do with mast cell because they could put me for a long time. I didn't test positive for peanuts, and I'm severely and like I can't even be in a room with peanuts or like I might die. The last time I was in a room with peanuts, I was seconds away from being on a ventilator. That's what the hospitals told me. Um, so we really try to stay away from things that we know. And once I have a reaction to something, I don't put it back on my body. And staying away from foods that have preservatives in them, for the most part, is a key to maintaining a safe life with Mast Cell.
Mhm. Um, see, uh,
That was so thanks.
um, oh, see, oh, oh, how, um, okay, so we just went through that. I see. Are there any specific changes that have happened and to alleviate your have you see that have happened to alleviate your symptoms? This
Of
diet,
Mast Cell.
yeah.
Okay. So in 2019, before that, from 2013 to 2019, we were using 1 to 2 EpiPens a week and being at the hospital.
Hmm.
In 2019, I started Xolair. I've only used an EpiPen 4 times since then
Well,
because my symptoms have been pretty much managed. Meaning, if I can tell when I need a steroid shot, but I don't necessarily need to epi every time.
hmm.
Like, whereas before Xolair, my throat would be the first thing to close when I was having a mast cell attack.
Hmm.
So that is something for me that we try to keep atop. Um, I'm sorry, my brain. Um, we try to. We will fight until the day, till my death, to keep me on that medication. Meaning, if I have to move to another country, I will, if it ever got pulled from the US market,
Hmm.
because it's my livelihood. It keeps me out of hospitals. Like I said, we've had a total of only 3 hospitalizations since we've been on Xolair, which is the key component, is making sure that everything stabilizes.
Hmm.
Sorry, walking around. My dog is acting weird. Um, so that is the key component. Now with I can't think straight. I'm sorry. You can ask me away another question.
Okay. Yeah. Conditions is oh, I see. What how does managing mast cell and growth hormone interact with every other with each how do mast cell and growth hormone interact with each other? Are there conflicts that or synergies that in your treatment plan?
So they don't really conflict with each other. The only thing that conflicts with each other is the allergies you have for mast cell. For example, I have an allergy to glycine. Um, Glycine is found in 2 growth hormone medications. So I can't take those 2, but I can take the one I'm on.
Mhm,
So that's the only way it interacts. It's mostly mast cell interacts with HCU more than it interacts with growth hormone.
mhm.
Yeah.
Um, coordinating how do you see how do your healthcare providers coordinate and coordinate care for your multiple conditions, particularly with the complexities of mast cell growth hormone?
Oh, this is a handful question in itself
None of them.
because
Yeah, you have way more than just the four of them, do.
I have 22 different specialists I see,
Yeah.
which Sounds like a crazy number. Now, mind you, I don't see them all on a regular basis. Some I see every 18 months, some I see every 2 years, where others I see every month. Um, so basically, it's my job to coordinate, um, which has been a struggle in itself. For a long time, I seen a doctor that specialized just in growth hormone instead of just seeing a doctor that specialized in growth hormone and diabetes.
Mhm,
They're both treated by endocrinologists. Um, for a long time, my diabetes endocrinologist did not feel comfortable taking over growth hormone. However, growth hormone in adults is on the rise. They're finding it more and more. And even though it's right now, it's only one in like, I think it's 5,000 people have growth hormone deficiencies. And they're finding out that people are just not reporting, or they're reporting symptoms and doctors are just looking the other way. So it's being your own advocate is the best solution when you have complex health issues, which is like a full-time job.
mhm,
Since April 1st, we had an insurance change. I've been on the phone 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, trying to get medications approved, trying to get prior authorizations and things, making sure meds that they're having to change don't interact with other medications that I'm on for other conditions.
mhm,
So, yeah. It's been a it's been a blast trying to, but like my doctors don't communicate with each other. They don't. Um Luckily, about 70% of my physicians do use Epic, which is um it's like a portal system for the major hospital systems here in Michigan. I don't know if it's elsewhere. I do know the Cleveland Clinic uses it as well. But it's making sure you do your due diligence. You don't wait for the doctors to call other doctors because they don't have time in their day.
mhm,
Unfortunately, when you have mast cell, there's not a lot of mast cell specialists. So a doctor could be triple booked at the same time for that appointment.
mhm. Which puts you waiting for a really long time sometimes, probably.
Yes, I mean, like I said, we started on prior authorizations on April 3rd.
Yeah.
We've done 2 appeals on every single medication I take.
I've been overbooked with doctors, over with eye doctors before. It takes forever to get in to see them sometimes.
Yeah. Finally, come,
Uh,
come here.
condition. Okay. Let's see. How many? How does managing mast cell and growth hormone interact with each other? We just did this one. Okay. Support. What kind of support do you have you found most helpful in managing your mast cell and your growth hormone? Um, are there any specific groups of um, or resources that you would recommend to others?
So, with growth hormone, um, it I don't have a support system with growth hormone.
Mhm,
I joined a couple Facebook groups, but like I said, most people that are on growth hormone, they don't stay on it as adults
mhm,
because their levels tend to self-regulate after their childhood. Um, that's how this is becomes a rare case, is that mine did not regulate. But we weren't diagnosed as a kid either. And I was in like the top 90th percentile for my height. So that diagnosis was very um challenging to get. But it's the truth. um it's just being aware. And I'm sorry, I lost where I was. My dog's she's about had it with me today.
Yeah.
The question, you said, how has
Uh, so, oh, uh, what was I? So we're on your support systems. Are there any specific groups or resources that you would recommend to others?
so with Mast Cell, I joined a Facebook group that was Mast Cell in Michigan, because every like people kept saying go to allergists or immunologists, and I was going to them, but they weren't trained in the disease.
Hmm.
So in my from 2013 to 2019, I saw 22 different allergists within a 3-hour radius of my house. And only one other doctor besides my doctor I have now knew what mast cell was.
Hmm.
So it's like, do your due diligence when you're researching. Join Facebook groups. Ask who they see. Um, ask, especially if you suspect a mast cell diagnosis. If you suspect it, join groups. Ask questions. Most part, everyone is willing to help, especially on the online platforms. And I'm willing to help. Like literally, um, you guys can email me even. And if you guys have questions about mast cell or growth hormone, I can my email is je720768@icloud.com. You guys are more than willing to, you guys can email any questions you have about these conditions. I will try to help you as much as I can. And if I don't know, I will try to help you navigate into a group on Facebook or a different online platform where you can get answers.
Hmm. Thanks. Let's see. Let's see. How do you? How do? Um, oh, have you been involved in any advocacy work related to mast cell or growth hormone deficiency? Um, what changes would you like to see in the medical community's approach to these conditions?
I would like, and I've done some advocacy work for mast cell. I haven't done any advocacy work for for growth hormone deficiency. With mast cell, I would like the FDA to approve Xolair without having to go a roundabout way to get the diagnosis to get Xolair. Like the only reason I'm getting Xolair is because one time my chronic urticaria blood work came back positive. But that's not the case for everybody. And I mean, I could have started this medication years before if it would have been positive.
So, do you know why they're not approving it?
I don't know. And I think it might be something like we haven't had the clinical trials like Europe did. Um, it is a medication. The first 2 years they recommend you doing in office, because even when you're on it, um, long term, you can still have a chance of an allergic reaction to the medication. Um, so it is something that the only reason I didn't go to offices for 2 years was because of COVID. And the company that makes Xolair ended up filing for an emergency um, at home injection. And their requirements was 12 to 18 months in office. And at that time, I was right on that border. So I was able to get approval to do at home. Um, but it, and that, and one situation that got it approved was I live less than a mile away from a hospital, and I live less than 3 blocks away from an urgent care. So I can get medical help literally within 2 minutes of being at my house, leaving my house.
Mhm.
And our city has the fastest response time for um our city where I live in the part of Brownstown that I'm at, the response time is less than 90 seconds because I live one street over from the from like where the fire trucks are and the EMSs.
Yeah. So, are there any recent research and developments and research and developments in mast cell or growth hormone that that's given you hope for better treatments or understanding these conditions?
The hope is that they were able with growth hormone to one drug company was able to push it down to a once a week injection. The hope is long term they could even make that longer, like a once a month injection that would regulate. Now that's asking a big if for drug manufacturers when this medication is a hormone and
And it's
they haven't been able to figure it out with things that have been around a lot longer. Um, example, like thyroid medication's been around way more than growth hormone, and they haven't been able to figure out a once a week or once a month um, thyroid med. So,
so they charge more if you're taking it less, or
do they charge more?
did they raise it?
Um, well, there's only one drug company that has become a once a week injection, and since it's so new on the market, it is a very expensive drug.
Yeah.
It like costs like the what I think when I read it, it costs like $21,000 a month,
How the heck do you afford that?
and that's with insurance. People say, and so um, I'm like the one I'm on is $7,000 a month without insurance.
Mhm.
So I mean, with insurance, up until April, I was paying $40 a month,
Mhm.
which is a lot when you're on a lot of meds.
Yeah.
$40 adds up quick, but it kept me out of hospitals. So
Yeah. So, let's see. Have you participated in any or considered understand if, oh, I know you're in a clinical trial right now with homocystinuria, so you wouldn't be able to be in one with the others. But um, that was the next question: is have you participated in or considered participating in any clinical trials for mast cell or growth hormone?
So, like you said, I can't right now. Um, However, have I been offered drugs from manufacturers that have been approved to track data? I've been offered it, but I haven't done it. Um, just because of mast cell. That is the reason why. They're treatments for growth hormone. And and it's like we never know. Like with the clinical trial that I'm on for homocystinuria, I'll be fine one day and giving my medicine, but then 3 weeks later, I'm in a huge attack, like redness, hives, and
Yeah.
there's nothing, no change. So it's
Uh,
mast cell is a very unpredictable disease.
yeah, I mean, if you could find something for your mast cell, I'd be probably going for it over homocystinuria.
Yeah, but like right now, I want to stay on HCU treatment
Yeah.
because it's had so much better effects on the HCU side of things.
Um, uh, um, what have you been? See, living with mast cell. Um, what is the best, or what's been the biggest challenge and success, or success in your journey with mast cell growth hormone?
The biggest success that I had was from 2020 until February of 24 was only having one hospitalization. That was the biggest success with mast cell, was learning how to manage the disease. Um, and when your body, you have to be extremely careful with mast cell, with anesthetics. And if your anesthesiologist doesn't know, like there's certain medications they should never give you with mast cell. And if they give it to you, they can cause other medicines in your body to last longer in your body. Um, so it being say, since February, since March, my mast cell's been out of control. And I mean, I've had, I've literally have only had 2 weeks off steroids.
Hmm.
Um, Overall, um, meaning I might be off for a day or two, and then all of a sudden I'm right back into an attack. Um, so these conditions can be very dangerous, and the biggest success is learning how to manage the condition. And once you learn, is being your best. Like I said before, you need to be your own best advocate. Now with growth hormone, it's not missing a dose. If you miss a dose, you'll have a migraine that very next day because growth hormone doesn't stay long enough in your body when you're giving a hormone injection.
Hmm.
It's not like thyroid medication, it builds on top of each other. Um, like if you miss one dose, it's not going to affect you. But whereas this will. So that's about it.
Let's see. What advice would you give someone who has recently been diagnosed with mast cell or hormone?
What piece of advice would I
With,
give?
with either of them?
So with mast cell, I would say be your own best advocate. Be stubborn. It's okay to be stubborn.
Hmm.
It's okay to advocate for yourself. It's okay for you to yell at insurance companies when they don't understand how one thing can cause a deadly reaction. It's okay to educate them. It's okay to educate yourself. Um, but don't just be reading Google. Read articles from like the Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic and Boston Children's and John Hopkins or NIH. Like those are reliable sources. Um, Everything else, I just throw out the window
Yeah.
because it's not reliable. Like I said my email earlier in the video. You can email me if you have questions about Mast Cell. Now with growth hormone, how I would say is unless you're comfortable when you turn 18, don't go off of it. Fight the insurance company to stay on it, which is hard as an adult because they're like, "Oh, you have grown, stop growing. You don't need to be on this medication anymore." Which they could stop you for 6 months, redo the test, and show that you're critically low, but it's damaging other organs in your body.
Hmm.
So the bet is to best piece of advice is have doctors that will advocate for you just to keep you on your treatment.
Uh, is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with mast cell or growth hormone, and any messages that of encouragement for others facing similar?
So when you call to make an appointment with an allergist or immunologist, if you're thinking you have mast cell, ask that ask that office, do they treat patients that have mast cell? How many patients do they treat? Because if they say one, more than likely that doctor isn't a specialist in that area. Um, because yes, mast cell is rare, but the specialists that are good at what they do, they have patients that come from other states.
Hmm.
They have patients that travel 6 hours to get to them, that travel 3 days to get to them because they're good at what they do. They know how to regulate the system. So just don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, even with growth hormone, if you're an adult, do you treat adults with growth hormone deficiencies? Like, you can ask the office that. It's okay because unfortunately, there are very few doctors that treat adults with growth hormone deficiency. The University of Michigan has two doctors that they just hired that treat adults. But for a long time, even at U of M, they did not believe growth hormone deficiencies were a thing in adults. They did not believe that it affected adults.
Hmm.
And I think part of the reason they started to believe was how much my symptoms went away in being treated at the university for so many different things. Um, and my doctor's documenting how things changed. So yes, there's doctors out there, but you will have to do your research to find one. And um, growth hormone in adults, most people don't have an issue, but if they do, it's because of some underlying thing. For me, the underlying thing was head injury that made them look at growth hormone. But like I said, growth hormone is rare and it's even more rare in adults.
Hmm. Thank you for joining us on this episode of our connection. I hope you have found our conversation with Jessica insightful and inspiring. As we delved into the the experience the experiences with mast cell and uh, activation syndrome and growth hormone deficiency. Remember, if you or someone you know is struggling, there are resources available. For immediate help, you can reach out to, this is for National Suicide Prevention Hotline. This is if you're for suicidal information that I give all the time. This is you can call 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255 or text hello to 741-741 to connect with a crisis counselor for more information. Visit the Suicide Prevention Lifeline.org. If you're listening to this audio on the audio version, remember you can text me via the link in the show notes now. I also have I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation. Please subscribe to me to my YouTube channel, The Rare Chef, where in addition to the podcast, I share cooking videos tailored for those who with rare conditions. Don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of Rare Connection, where you're listening to right now. If you like, if you'd like to support the show, you can make a donation by visiting https ://www.buzzsprout.com /2204433 /support. Your contributions help to continue bringing these important stories to light. And thanks for your time.
You can also, with Mast Cell, Nord is NORD is a resource that you guys can look up, and then has information about Mast Cell. And I believe it has stuff about growth hormone. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm almost positive it does.
Mm-hmm. So this is the first time we've actually got a viewer on a link that didn't work at first, and so I had to go back and get it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye.